Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Trees, a podcast presented by Cedarwood Financial Partners. I'm the COO, Alex Murphy. Next to me is our chairman, Todd Vincent, and our CFO, David Boothby. Today we're going to talk about building a brand, and this is tactics and thoughts for advisors as they are building an independent or a captive practice. And I think a good place to start is maybe we all had a lot of experience at a captive firm, and so you're at a place where you can't have your own name on something. You can't have your own colors. You can't design anything pretty much of your own. And so how do you stand out when you're wearing the same jersey as thousands of other advisors? So let's start with, was it a challenge to differentiate yourself from others when there are so many others that are titled exactly the same as you, same firm? Or did you find it wasn't that challenging, it's just an optic from the outside?
If you're directing that at me, because I've been around a little longer than David, I would say that really identifying and creating your brand is a process. It takes a while just to realize who you are as a person and what your niches are. And when you ask me this question, I'm thinking between me as a person, my brand, versus a brand like Cedarwood Financial Partners with 3 trees and a certain color scheme. So I want to go to who am I as a person? And I think that's something that you develop over time, that you realize you have giftings in certain areas and certain niches. And self-reflection, I think, can help you identify the brand or the people that I like to work with, the people that like to work with me. What's unique about that? Why does that work so well? Like, actually ask some questions. One way maybe I'm going to present as an idea to think about how to come up with your brand. When I was in seminary, they asked us a similar question. Like, how do you know what ministry you're going to do? Okay, well, what's your brand of ministry? We could almost say it like that, right? So here was the exercise. Go back through your entire life and break it down into 5-year increments. And in that 5-year increment, think about the most significant positive thing that occurred to you. Like, for me, I wrote down one. We were a state championship cross country team. I was captain of the team. And then, that would be an example. During that same time, you might ask yourself, well, what was the worst or a low point in that 5-year period? Okay. And that might have been like my parents' divorce. So as I went through my life, all those positive things, we called that was your star. All those negative things, we called that as your scar. And the idea was to think about that maybe your stars are actually pointing towards your giftedness and what you're really good at. And your scars are your ministry. Now, how would we apply this here today in the financial world? Well, there's certain clients that I have an affinity with, or over time, I have become to build a lot of clients that advocate for me along the same lines as I'm retiring and I want income. So maybe I'm going to gear towards that. David, as an example, and he could speak to it, like maybe if he was an engineer and he might brand to more, presentations that are very detail oriented in spreadsheets and programs, where I might do it on a napkin. You might use Money Guide. That's some thoughts.
Do you feel like you were intentional from day one when you started your career, or did you start to see as you progressed through it, oh, these are things I'm really good at, these are people I'm connecting with? Did you start with an end in mind? Did you start with a specific type of person in mind, or walk me through that?
Well, in the beginning, when I was brand new in this business, I just knew I needed to feed my family. So I'm going to start to build a business. So I think it developed over time. Quickly, there were certain areas of products, there were certain clients, certain personalities. I realized that wasn't my favorite. And I didn't maybe have as much joy working with them. Then over time, I started to see I really like doing these things in my practice, and I like working with these people. So how do I build myself to associate more with those people?
So give us some color on that. Who are those people and who are those things that you like that you started to build towards?
Okay. So a couple of my greatest joys are people who have like zero financial experience. They just know they've been a good saver and they've worked hard their whole life, and their entire retirement and future is based on their 401k. And now that they've worked and paid all those dues for all those years, they want to go enjoy life. I want to educate them on here's how it works. And I want you to go and do, you be you just like our motto says, and you go do those things you want to do, and I'm going to take care of the investments for you. And I take that responsibility seriously, and they trust me, and I trust them, and we have a tight relationship. And it's not necessarily about, well, what was our performance last month, last quarter? It's, are you going and fishing every day because that's what you wanted to do? Great. Is your portfolio staying the same or growing? It is? Great. That's the problems I like to solve.
Okay. So it's hands-off people who trust you. So what have you done to earn trust with people who aren't interested in the numbers, who they are probably fearful, right? I feel like a lot of those people are scared of the market. They're worried about the government. They're worried about all these things and how it'll impact their picture, and they don't really understand how it will. So what skills and traits have you developed to service them and build those tight relationships?
Well, are you going to ask David all these questions too? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so let's think about this. So number one, I'm very educated on all the nuances of how would you use your 401k, your retirement plan, to give you a monthly check, no matter what age you are. So I'm going to educate myself on all of the ways that I can help them meet their goal, which is I don't want to spend another day at work. Okay. If you do a good job of knowing who this person is and building a relationship with them, and they feel that confidence in you, the old saying of birds of a feather fly together, it's true. They're going to refer like people to you. So if they don't, I would just maybe question number one, why? I mean, are they a good advocate for you? Or two, have you asked them who else do they work with? Who people they hang out with? My business has grown over the years by referrals from like people. So the other thing that I would say, how do you nurture those relationships? They might have similar hobbies, similar things they do, but I try to connect with them also at, well, when you are going to go fishing or hunting, and that's what I like to do too, how do I say thank you for letting me have their business? How do I create my brand of getting more people like them? You know, if I buy them a gift or a camouflage hat, it's a simple thing, but to them, that's right in their sweet spot. And they're like really excited about it. So a brand, bottom line, is developed, in my opinion, over time.
So you're listening to them, what they're interested in, and then you're connecting outside of the financial world, whether it's doing those activities with them or being intentional with the gifts you give them so that they know Todd's listening to me at the end of the day. And then you're an expert in cash flow and all things retirement. So when people come to you, they know these are things I'm not going to have to worry about.
Right.
Awesome.
All right.
David, your picture is a little bit different. So
Yeah,
first of all, from the beginning, Todd started at a time when there was less of the same jerseys around, and you started when it was probably a little bit more flooded, right? So for you, how did you dig into who you are and then who you wanted to serve, and were you intentional from the beginning, or were you just trying to bring in some clients and survive first?
So I think it was a little bit of survival and a little bit of intentional. You had to kind of decipher between the wants and the needs, right? And so when I came into this business, I had a background, like Todd mentioned, in engineering, process-driven. So, when I came into the business, it was feed my family, but at the same time, I was looking at the successful advisors and figuring out what they were doing, and then basically taking those ideas and making them my own, right? Because, the path was there. They were successful for a reason. You just had to work with them to figure out why or how they were successful, and then kind of clone some of those same attributes and, make it your own. And that's kind of how I built my practice. So, it was go talk to as many people as you can out of the gate, knock on as many doors as you can. But at the same time, in the back of your mind, you knew that there was a process and there were some things that you intentionally had to do to build a business with people that you like to work with and have a no jerk policy. There was, times that you really had to question, hey, this is a $1 million account coming in, but I don't know if this guy and I are going to get along.
Yeah.
And some of those were hard decisions that, probably best for the business, best for my sanity, best for both of us if we pass on that one. And it was a hard choice at the time, but there were some of those decisions made like that based on what I saw with other successful advisors in the business. So.
Yeah, sometimes we probably learn those the hard way too. I don't know about you guys, but there's been clients I brought on where 6 months, a year later, or during a downturn, we realized I'm not happy having you as a client here, and you're not happy being a client because either you're a do-it-yourselfer or just not the right personality fit for me.
Right.
So I think that makes a lot of sense. And you have several 401ks that you run.
Right.
What led you into that? Was it something you stumbled into that a client owned a business or?
Yeah. So great question. My background, that's probably the only financial piece that I had a foothold in, and that was my own 401k and the company's 401k where I was with before. So then coming into this industry, I kind of knew a little bit about the other side of the 401k business as a participant. And so, I just kind of dug in and uncovered some areas that I thought could help those that didn't know much about 401ks, and was able to speak to, that guy on a production floor or that executive that doesn't really look at a 401k too much, just knows he has to have it or she has to have it and just puts money aside and let it grow in the background, but really doesn't know any bells and whistles of what it can or can't do for them. And so I think that was part of the reason that I got involved with as many 401k plans as I got involved with and have.
Makes a lot of sense. What I heard from both of you was you got to know who you were and built from there, really. And it's interesting, as I started with a phenomenal mentor, one of the best guys I've ever met. He is vivacious. He is a belly laugher. He makes everyone else laugh. And when I started, I thought, I got to be just like him, right? And a few months went by, and I realized that he's a bird and I'm a fish, and I don't fly that well. And so I had to learn how to swim. I had to realize that I was a pretty good swimmer, but I wasn't as funny as him. You walk past his office and everyone's laughing. You walk past the office when I'm in a meeting and nobody's laughing. And so you have to tune into who you are and then build off of that. And you both did great jobs tuning into those things and developing skills from there and from your past experiences that helped you.
When you were saying this whole question makes me think of, you hear in the news sometimes, like say an athlete or a movie star or politician or somebody that's like, oh, they need to, how are they going to rebrand themselves? So I'd be curious just to hear, what are your thoughts on, well, I was operating a certain way, but now I need to rebrand myself, maybe especially if I was leaving, say, a wirehouse and I was going to be independent. What would you say?
I think it really truly starts with digging into who you are, what do you want to be, what do you enjoy doing, who are the people that like you. It's funny, my same mentor would come into the office and I'd be writing down all these questions beforehand, things I knew I needed to get out of a meeting to be effective moving forward for the client. And he would giggle and he'd say, I love how much you take notes. And it was his way of saying, that's not something I do, but I know it's you and I think that's great you're doing it, but it's just a little friendly banter almost. And so little comments like that is when I started to learn about myself too. So okay, I like to be prepared. When I first started, I thought I need to be off the cuff and be original and genuine, because genuine is an important trait to me. And as time progressed, I realized that the more you're consistent, and my dad's came from manufacturing like you, David, and so I thought if I could be like a Honda plant or a Toyota plant and be that consistent, the things I'm saying are still genuine, they're just better quality. And so I started to dig into those personality traits that I had and say, okay, so now how do I best serve people? Who do I connect with? It's going to be different people than he does, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's so many people that can be successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that for me, EQ is where I'm stronger, so I'm not as analytical as David on the number side, but I'm analytical on the behavioral side and relationship side. And so I needed people more like you connect with Todd, people who they want someone that they know has done their research and knows their stuff, but doesn't want it all explained to them. They want someone that they can trust who, they'd rather watch a movie with than dig into the financials. So you got follow-up questions on that?
Well, that was a great answer. And I was thinking, like, even when it comes to maybe rebranding, I would challenge people to push themselves maybe out of their comfort zone, because they might discover a gift or a niche or something that they didn't realize they had. Sometimes I'm thinking a very simple one is, if you're going to speak in front of somebody, or what would make you the most comfortable? Suit and tie or blue jeans and a polo? Well, I would tell that person who's going to give that speech, let's just take one area of anxiety away. If you like blue jeans and a polo, you go doing the blue jeans and a polo. So part of rebranding is, be true to yourself. Where will you have your most confidence? And when your confidence comes out, that's going to exude your excitement, your love for your job. It's going to help you with your communication skills. So part of rebranding, like we've already just been, talking about a bunch, is probably knowing yourself more than anything.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Right. Well, I'd be curious so a lot of people have a hard time making the jump to transition, and we did it, and we went from the same jerseys to now we still wear the same jerseys as each other. What have you learned about branding throughout that transition, if anything? I feel like a lot of people are scared because they have a big name or they have something that's established that they see as their brand.
Yeah, I think, and it was probably one of the reasons that pulled us to the broker-dealer that we're with today is, when we ask how to do something or ask if we can do something, the answer is always, let us help you find out the yes versus telling you the no, right? So it's always operating as, we see where you want to go down your path, let us help you figure out how to get there. And I think that goes with the brand as well, is it's easy to say no and move on to the next topic, right? But saying yes and coming up with a solution might be a little bit more challenging. Mm-hmm. And it seems like we're always challenging those whys. And if we have a good why, then the yeses kind of flow behind that why.
Mm-hmm. Like Commonwealth, I've said it on another podcast, and their motto at the home office, go where you grow, which is exactly what you're saying, David. Mm-hmm. Like, who are you and where can we get you in the spot that you can be you and you can thrive?
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, too, as we talk through this, we all are different. And so if you're successful somewhere else, you actually are the brand. It's not very often that people are there because of whatever mm-hmm. jersey you're wearing. And so you can be your own brand wherever you go. Right. You just have to find whatever you're most comfortable in, whether it's your jeans or, and I think that goes for firm. At the end of the day, it's what are you most comfortable in, and you're going to be successful either way.
The other neat thing I think has been going from the big firm to our own. When it comes to like the brand, like you would say, like the cedarwood in the trees. I think it's interesting now is I look at other independent financial advisors, just like us, that their marketing brand does kind of characterize who they are. Whereas, if we were to say a big wirehouse name, you just say, well, it's a name, but it doesn't mean anything to me. Whereas like the whole purpose of why the three trees, why Cedarwood Financial Partners, the brand, our marketing brand actually tries to communicate something at a deeper level than just a name, Vincent Financial Management.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
think that's cool.
And that's why it took us so long to come up with all those
Yeah.
symbols and names, right? Because we want them to have meaning behind it. It wasn't just a name we're going to throw on a shirt. There's some meaning behind it.
Definitely.
Exactly.
So, digging back towards clients a little bit, what activities do you guys do to deepen those relationships and deepen your brand within your client base?
Yeah, so I think this is kind of back to what I said earlier of watching successful people in our industry or our region even and saying, what did they do? And so, some of the things that I stole from some of those fruitful advisors, which would be this guy here, we continue to do in our office, and it's given back to our clients. I mean, that's huge in our office. Is we like to, share the good times with our clients, and then we also see a lot of different things that our clients like to give. So we do a lot of different drives, like a toy drive and a food drive, and different things that they can actually give back to the community through our clients. Mm-hmm. And it's little things like that the small gifts to clients, I think, go a long way. That's kind of what our branch does anyway.
Yeah, I like that mantra. I think, in essence, people are seeing they pay you, they know they pay you, and they're not seeing you take the money and run. They're seeing that you're feeding into the community that they also want to feed into. They're seeing you give back to them when you have an opportunity. I think those things go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
go ahead.
I think our clients also feel part of our branch, because we do so many events, dinners and Veterans Day and widows luncheons and different things like that, birthday lunches, that they feel like they're a part of our group. I mean, there's clients that know each other and they look forward to their birthday lunch so they can catch up with, that person that they hadn't seen for a year. So.
Yeah, I've seen that firsthand when I visited for some of your events. Todd, you've been doing events for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It started with you, from what I'm understanding from everyone else. What was it that made you want to do events for clients, whether it's the Veterans Day or birthday lunches?
Well, I think any seasoned veteran can affirm the fact that time spent with someone is what really is going to solidify the relationship. And the more time you spend with them, maybe not in so much a business capacity, but just as like a personal capacity. When I went to seminary and I was working 2 days a week, going to school 3 days a week, had 3 young kids studying. When I was at the office, it was all business. And I hated the part of my days where it was like I had to be all business and I couldn't be relational. I couldn't build that camaraderie, that special friendship that you have with those best clients. So I'm like, I have to find a way that business is not talked about, and I can appreciate and say thank you to those clients, that we can connect. People always connect over a meal. That's always a good way to do it. And so how can I also maximize my time? If I only have so many days a month, I got to find some time to share with a bunch of people all at once. And that's when birthday lunches were started in my office with just a cake. And then not everybody eats cake. So how about we have subs and a little cookie? And then it turned into restaurant. And I'm a veteran, so I appreciate people who serve. And at the end of the day, everybody likes to be acknowledged, thanks, appreciated. They love to spend time with people, and any way that an advisor can be creative in building stronger relationships with their clients, that's really building your brand. I almost think your brand could say your relationship skills with your clients.
Yeah. Well, I'm relieved for your clients that you didn't go cake to sandwiches to salads. That's where I thought it was going for a second there. Restaurants is an upgrade for sure. More referrals come from restaurants than salads, I guess.
Right.
No, I think you're spot on with that. If you could go back in time, and I think we can wrap it up after this, but if you go back in time and tell yourself something, what would that be when it comes to branding and building a business?
You know, I think I heard this early on in this industry. Again, new industry to me. But it was, just time in the business. Time in the business develops those relationships. Those developed relationships develop referrals. Those referrals develop circles of people that you like to work with. It was probably trusting the process, 8 years ago. I mean, I heard that, but it was like, yeah, I heard that. I don't know if I listened to it. And it's probably to go back and tell myself, listen to this when people say time in the business, because building relationships takes time.
I would go tell my younger self, first off, I have to just say that I had probably one of the best teachers. My father-in-law was an outstanding communicator. He made it simple for people to understand. His area was the same area I do today. So I just I know how to do it. And he showed me, and it's just continued. There are times when we really break it down, it's all about relationships with your clients. And there are times when your stomach tells you this is not a good fit. I would listen more. There are always people that want to do business with you, and some of those you should, and there are some that you shouldn't. And as like you just said, David, time in the business. Well, if I'm 5 years in and there's a client that comes in, or a prospective client, and it's probably not a good fit, know that I'm still going to be in the business tomorrow, and there's going to be more time in the business. There's going to be more people, that I don't have to be everything to everybody. That kind of mindset that I had is not good. Of course, I have that same problem when I'm outside of work, is sometimes saying no. But that would be the thing that I would say. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to trust your instincts and know that it's going to be okay.
What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I think for me, it's digging into some things that you guys have already said, but almost the opposite of what you're saying there. It's when I started, everyone talked about the game of numbers. So meet people, meet new people, meet new people, meet new people. And it took me a long time to realize that once I'd met somebody who I got along great with, who was a perfect fit for me, whether it's just a relationship or as a client, spend more time with them and find ways to meet their friends, because you're going to like them. So I was probably thinking, okay, great. I know that I just have to meet as many people as possible. And then once I met a great person, I didn't necessarily say, I can afford to spend time with them. I can afford to get to know them on a deeper level. It was just, okay, I have to meet somebody else because that's what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So if I could talk to myself when I was younger, I would have said, and it was hard. I started at 25, 24, 25. And so in my mind at the time, it was, these people don't want to spend time with me. They just see me as a young kid. But now some of my best friends that I golf with are in their 60s and 70s. And I'm still only 35. So, they get something from me with, what's going on in my life. I think there's some nostalgia connected with me with, my young kids and things I'm up to. And so they enjoy that. And then for me, I get so much wisdom and, just so many great experience and stories out of those guys and gals. And so it's just, as you grow up, you learn that your perception of how people see you is not always right. Mm-hmm. And so
True.
Unmasking that and saying, if this person likes me, they probably do want to spend time with me. Let's do it.
Yeah. I thought one other thing as it relates to what I tell my younger self, I'd go be independent and build my brand much sooner than I did. The first time I had that thought was 2002. And I waited to 2022. That was way too long.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
A long time to wait. What held you back?
Fear of the unknown, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair. I have a loyalty thing where I feel if somebody gave me something or helped me out, I feel so loyal to them. And I think that was something I struggled with for a long time to say, well, it feels like I'm slapping in the face the hand that, fed me. Reality is you're just everything in life. I mean, if you're in any other career, you see stepping stones and you see there's opportunities and not everyone's meant to end up in the same place. And so people get an experience and then they make a change. And for some reason, our industry, I feel like that's frowned upon a lot more. I guess because it's about money and it's about trying to keep talent in one place. What else? Anything else?
I'm going to keep thinking about this brand question. Made me think that someday when I'm no longer here, there is a obituary that's going to be written. And I read one at a funeral this weekend, and a lot of times it just says, this is where they worked. This is where they went to school, and these are the kids they had. These are accomplishments they accomplished throughout their life. What about your brand really being like, this is who this person is, and this is how they touch people's lives? Way more significant. So
Yeah, I like that. Makes me think of Mother Teresa. Someone who had no money, and still, when you say the name, everyone in the world knows who she is. It's how do you get people to know you on that deep of a level and that impact? That's something for all of us to think about. And for anyone listening, we have we're gonna have shorts on our YouTube, Todd Talks, and so maybe we'll dig in on branding a little bit more there with a short minute video for you to learn on.
There you go.
All right, well, I think that's another good episode. And for anyone listening, thanks for visiting with us, and we'll see you next time.